The space station of Aurora Prime stretched across the void like a silver web, a meeting point for species from countless worlds. Shuttles glided between docking bays, and the hum of machinery mingled with the chatter of alien tongues. Humans, though still a young species in interstellar terms, were present, working as engineers, traders, and explorers. Among them was Ethan, a human in his early 20s. With a quiet determination and a curious mind that often went unnoticed, Ethan's small stature and gentle manners made him easy to overlook. He carried himself with humility, preferring to solve problems quietly rather than boast. Today he wore his standard engineer uniform, with its many pockets filled with tools, data pads, and repair instruments. He moved carefully through the station's corridors, checking maintenance panels and monitoring systems. To the casual observer, he appeared unremarkable, even weak. But in his mind, Ethan knew something that few others did. Intelligence, patience, and careful observation often outweighed brute strength. It was a lesson he had learned growing up on Earth, where humans had always been the weaker species compared to many others in the galaxy. Still, the human spirit thrived on cleverness, ingenuity, and persistence. As Ethan worked on a malfunctioning power conduit near the docking bay, a commotion erupted. Alien voices shouted warnings, and the station's alarms blinked red. A small transport shuttle had miscalculated its approach, and its emergency systems were failing. Several alien workers were trapped inside, and the vehicle teetered dangerously over the edge of the docking platform. Ethan's heart beat faster, but he did not panic. He dashed toward the shuttle, assessing the situation. The humans and aliens around him hesitated, unsure how to act without proper equipment. Ethan's mind raced through possible solutions. Using the station's structural beams and the onboard tools he carried, he could rig a support system to stabilize the shuttle. It would require precision, quick thinking, and courage, but he could do it. As he moved to act, Lyra watched from above. Lyra was a member of the Zerani, a species known for their agility, sharp instincts, and combat skills. Her violet skin shimmered under the station lights, and her eyes glowed faintly in the dim corridor. She had trained for decades to master strength, speed, and precision. Anything less than perfection, in her eyes, was weakness. When she saw Ethan approaching the unstable shuttle, she raised an eyebrow. He seemed small, fragile, and unprepared for the danger. He won't last a minute, she murmured to herself. Around her, other aliens whispered their agreement, convinced that humans were delicate creatures, ill-suited for crises. Lyra moved closer, intending to intervene, but she paused. She wanted to see what the human would do on his own. She folded her arms, her stance relaxed, yet confident. Ethan did not look around for help. He only focused on the problem in front of him. He examined the shuttle carefully. Its struts had failed, and one side of the platform was bending dangerously. One wrong move could send the shuttle and its passengers plummeting into space. Ethan worked quickly, securing a series of stabilizing beams and using his magnetic tools to lock them in place. Every step was precise. Every movement calculated. The shuttle's systems began to stabilize. But a final adjustment was needed to ensure the safety of the crew inside. Ethan climbed carefully along the side, his small frame giving him an advantage in tight spaces. He reached the access hatch and activated the emergency override, unlocking it slowly to allow the trapped workers to escape. Lyra watched in silence. She had expected failure, perhaps a frantic, clumsy human scrambling and causing more danger. Instead, she saw calmness, intelligence, and courage. Ethan's actions were deliberate, careful, and effective. The shuttle creaked, but it remained secure. One by one, the workers climbed out, grateful and relieved. When the last worker stepped safely onto the platform, the gathered crowd erupted in cheers. Humans and aliens alike acknowledged Ethan's skill, though some did so reluctantly, still clinging to their assumptions about human weakness. Lyra, however, felt a flicker of curiosity. This human, whom she had dismissed at first sight, had acted with bravery and intelligence she had not expected. After ensuring the shuttle was fully stabilized, Ethan climbed down from the platform. He wiped sweat from his brow and offered a small, polite smile to the rescued workers. "Just glad everyone's safe," he said softly. His voice lacked the confidence of a seasoned warrior, but it carried sincerity and calm. Lyra approached him, her violet eyes studying him closely. "You're different," she said finally, her tone a mixture of surprise and caution. "I thought humans were weak. I thought you wouldn't survive this," Ethan shrugged. "Strength isn't always about muscles," he replied. "Sometimes it's about thinking, planning, and staying calm when things get hard." Lyra tilted her head. She had always relied on strength, speed, and skill, honed through physical training. Humans, she believed, were fragile and slow learners. Yet here was one, small and unassuming, who had solved a problem she would have approached with raw force. His approach had been entirely different, yet effective. Around them, the crowd murmured. Some Zorani warriors exchanged glances, uncertain how to feel about this human who had defied their expectations. The younger aliens, however, were intrigued. Perhaps this was a species worth observing more closely. Ethan returned to his tools, checking the shuttle's systems one final time. Lyra lingered nearby, watching silently. She did not approach him again immediately, but her mind buzzed with questions. How had he known exactly what to do? How had he stayed so calm under pressure? And most importantly, could this human teach her something she did not yet understand about strength? The station's alarms quieted, returning to their normal hum. Shuttles resumed their movements, and the crowd slowly dispersed. Ethan collected his tools and made his way back down the corridor. Unaware of the growing interest he had sparked among his alien peers, Lyra followed at a distance, curious and cautious, determined to understand this human who had acted where so many others would have failed as they walked. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice quieter this time. "I will admit, I misjudged you. But one day, I need to see if this thinking of yours works in a fight. I will challenge you." Ethan paused, glancing at her with a polite smile. "I'll accept," he said simply. "But you should know I don't fight like anyone expects." Lyra laughed softly, a sound that carried both amusement and intrigue. "Good. Perhaps you will surprise me further." The two continued their separate ways, though the encounter had planted a seed of mutual curiosity. Lyra had witnessed something she had not anticipated. A human who defied the usual assumptions of weakness, acting with intelligence, courage, and strategy. Ethan, meanwhile, remained unaware of the deeper impact he had made, simply glad that lives had been saved. And in the corridors of Aurora Prime, whispers began to circulate. The human who seemed weak had done something no one thought possible. Some called it luck, others skill, but everyone agreed it had changed the way humans were seen that day. Little did they know, this was only the beginning. For both Ethan and Lyra, the encounter had set in motion a series of events that would challenge assumptions, test courage, and redefine the meaning of strength in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The station's training arena hummed with energy. Lights glowed across the polished floor, and holographic targets floated in the air, simulating various combat scenarios. Aliens and humans alike moved through drills, practicing skills and testing strength. For most, it was a place to showcase talent, to assert dominance and earn respect. Lyra stood near the arena's entrance, her violet eyes scanning the room. She had been thinking about the human engineer, Ethan, since their encounter at the docking bay. His calmness, intelligence, and problem-solving had unsettled her. She had always believed strength came from the body speed, power, agility, but this human had shown her something different. Lyra's peers noticed her distraction. "What are you thinking, Lyra?" one of the Zorani warriors asked, raising an eyebrow. "I want to see something," she said, her tone sharp yet thoughtful. "That human. He surprised me. I want to test him." Her words drew laughter from some, disbelief from others. Humans were not known for combat skill. They were clever, yes, but fragile. Most Zorani believed no human could withstand a direct challenge in the arena. Meanwhile, Ethan worked in a nearby maintenance bay, unaware that his name had become the center of whispered conversation. A few young aliens passed by, nudging each other and pointing discreetly at him. He heard the chatter but ignored it, focused on repairing a damaged energy conduit. His mind was methodical, calculating, always observing before acting. A sudden voice called his name. Ethan. He looked up to see Lyra approaching, her posture confident and her expression unreadable. "You were impressive today," she said bluntly. "I thought humans were weak. I was wrong, or at least, I hope I was. I challenge you to a sparring match in the arena. 1-on-1. Let's see what you can do." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. A sparring match? With a Zerani warrior? She was fast, strong, and skilled. He had seen her move before, and even observing from a distance was intimidating. "I don't usually fight," he said honestly, trying not to sound nervous. "Then this is your chance," Lyra replied. "Don't worry. It's friendly. But don't hold back either. I want to see if your mind can match my strength." The challenge spread quickly. Soon, a small crowd gathered in the arena, curious to witness a human standing against a Zerani warrior. Whispers ran through the spectators. Some laughed quietly, confident that Lyra would win without effort. Others watched with genuine curiosity, wondering if humans were truly as weak as they had assumed. Ethan stepped into the arena cautiously. He could feel the weight of many eyes on him. The floor beneath him was polished and smooth, perfect for agility tests, but potentially dangerous if he lost balance. He studied Lyra's posture, noting the slight tension in her shoulders and the fluid readiness in her stance. She was prepared, precise, and confident, a perfect opponent. Lyra smiled faintly, sensing his observation. "Focus on the environment," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Strength alone will not help you here." The arena's holographic systems activated, projecting moving targets and obstacles. For most participants, these simulations were trivial, but for Ethan, they offered clues. He noticed patterns in the way the holograms moved, how shadows fell, and how the light reflected off the floor. Every detail was information he could use. The match began. Lyra moved first, a blur of violet motion. Her steps were light and precise, her arms striking with controlled speed. Ethan dodged instinctively, relying on careful positioning rather than power. To the crowd, he appeared slow, even clumsy, as if he were struggling to keep up. Lyra smirked, expecting him to tire quickly. But Ethan was not unprepared. He had studied her movements during the initial moments and began to anticipate her attacks. He used the arena's layout, bouncing off walls when needed and positioning himself to avoid direct contact. His strategy was simple, yet effective. Avoid damage, study the opponent, and wait for the right moment. Lyra grew slightly frustrated. She had assumed this human would be easy to outmaneuver, yet he evaded her with unexpected skill. His movements were not strong or fast, but precise. He didn't strike, he didn't rely on force, he waited. The crowd leaned forward, intrigued. They had expected an easy match for Lyra, but the human was holding his ground. Even the skeptical Zerani began to murmur in surprise. Minutes passed. Lyra's attacks became more complex, testing his reflexes and endurance. She shifted between fast strikes, sudden spins, and simulated weapon maneuvers. Ethan moved carefully, predicting her sequences and responding with calm timing. Every evasion was calculated. Every step placed him in the safest position. Finally, Lyra made a bold move, a high-speed lunge aimed at Ethan's side. The audience gasped, certain it would end the match. But Ethan, anticipating her attack, pivoted at the perfect moment. Using a support beam in the arena, he redirected her momentum, causing her lunge to overshoot. Without harming her, he had effectively neutralized her attack. The arena fell silent. Lyra stopped, floating slightly in the air as she regained balance. She blinked in surprise. This human had done something she had not expected. He had countered her maneuver without strength. Without weapons, relying only on timing, observation, and environmental awareness, the crowd erupted in cheers and whispers. Ethan had not won with power, but with intelligence. Lyra's smirk faded, replaced by a mixture of curiosity and respect. She stepped back, examining him more closely. "You did that on purpose," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "You didn't strike me, yet you controlled the outcome. Ethan nodded, breathing steadily. I told you before, strength is not always about muscles. It's about understanding the situation and acting carefully. Alira's peers were stunned. Some looked at her incredulously, unable to believe she had underestimated a human so completely. Others nodded in approval, impressed by his skill. The younger aliens, particularly, whispered excitedly. Perhaps humans were more capable than they had assumed. Lyra stepped forward again, this time without aggression. I see now, she said, her voice calm but firm. You're not weak. You fight differently, and that makes you formidable. Ethan smiled politely. I'm not trying to be formidable. I'm just trying to survive and help when I can. The lesson was clear. Strength was not a single measure. It came in many forms. Lyra realized that the human had qualities she had overlooked. Patience, cleverness, observation, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. These were strengths in their own right. As powerful as speed or muscle, the match ended with mutual respect rather than a declared winner. Lyra extended a hand and Ethan shook it. It was a simple gesture, yet it symbolized a bridge between species. A recognition that assumptions could be wrong. Afterward, Lyra approached him with a proposal. There's an upcoming mission to explore a newly discovered planet, she said. It's dangerous, full of rough terrain and unknown hazards. I think we could work well together. Your skills and my agility, we could succeed where others might fail. Ethan hesitated briefly, then nodded. I'd like that. We'll need to plan carefully, though. I prefer thinking through challenges rather than rushing in. Lyra smiled faintly. Then we're alike in some ways. Let's prepare. Human. The galaxy has tests that go beyond the arena, and I have a feeling we'll both learn a lot from each other. As they left the arena, a sense of excitement buzzed through the station. The challenge had not only revealed the humans' hidden strengths, but also planted the seeds of partnership. Lyra, once certain of human weakness, now saw potential. Ethan, once overlooked, had begun to show that courage, intelligence, and careful observation could redefine what strength truly meant. And somewhere in the vast corridors of Aurora Prime, whispers began again. The human who seemed weak had survived the impossible not by force, but by using his mind. For both Lyra and Ethan, the challenge was only the beginning. The real test, they both knew, lay beyond the station. In a galaxy full of mysteries, dangers, and discoveries that would demand every ounce of courage, skill, and trust they could offer. The mission to explore the newly discovered planet Zolaris was underway. Aurora Prime's research teams had detected unusual energy readings from the planet's surface, along with signals suggesting a network of hidden structures buried beneath its rocky terrain. It was an opportunity few could refuse. Lyra had insisted that Ethan join her team. As the shuttle descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, Ethan peered out at the rugged landscape below. Jagged cliffs, deep canyons, and vast stretches of mineral-rich plains spread across the horizon. The environment was harsh and unpredictable. It would test strength, skill, and intelligence alike. Lyra sat beside him, her violet eyes scanning the instruments. This planet is dangerous, she said. Many would fail if they rushed in. You'll need more than your cleverness to navigate it. I know, but careful observation and thinking can go a long way. The shuttle touched down on a relatively flat plateau, kicking up dust and small rocks. The team disembarked, including a few scientists and explorers from both human and alien backgrounds. Lyra took the lead, her agility and experience making her the natural pathfinder. Ethan stayed slightly behind, observing every detail: the cracks in the rocks, the patterns of shadows, and the subtle vibrations in the ground. The first challenge came quickly. As they crossed a narrow canyon, the ground beneath them trembled. Small fissures opened, creating gaps in their path. The team froze. One wrong step could send a person tumbling into the chasm below. Lyra was ready to leap across, confident in her strength and reflexes. But Ethan noticed something unusual. The fissures were forming along certain weak points in the rock, creating a predictable pattern. "Stop," he called. Lyra paused mid-step, curious. "Look at the cracks," Ethan said. They widen in a sequence. Step here, then there we can cross safely. He traced a careful path using his hand to point out stable spots. Lyra studied him for a moment, then followed his guidance. Step by step, the team crossed the canyon safely, impressed by Ethan's foresight. The Zorani warriors exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that his mind was a powerful tool. Even if his body was not as imposing as theirs, the planet held more challenges. A series of cliffs blocked their path, with sheer drops and jagged rocks below. Lyra instinctively began to climb, her strength and agility allowing her to scale the heights with ease. Ethan, however, paused to examine the rock formations. Using small crevices and handholds, he plotted a route that minimized risk while conserving energy. As Lyra reached the top, she glanced down to see Ethan navigating the cliff with careful precision. His movements were deliberate, almost like a dance, yet they were effective. For the first time, she realized that his strength lay not in speed or muscle, but in his mind, the ability to observe, predict, and adapt. Hours later, the team encountered the most intriguing challenge yet, a vast underground structure partially buried beneath layers of rock. Energy readings spiked near the entrance, suggesting active systems inside. But the doorway was sealed with an ancient puzzle lock, a series of rotating panels with alien symbols. Lyra tried to force the panels open, using her strength to push and twist them. Nothing worked. Frustration crept into her movements. She was used to obstacles being overcome with agility or power, but this one required a different approach. Ethan stepped forward. He studied the lock carefully, observing the patterns of symbols and their subtle mechanical responses. "It's not about force," he said. "It's about understanding the sequence. Watch the way each panel interacts when you rotate it. There's a logic here." Lyra watched silently as he worked. His hands moved deliberately, rotating panels in a precise order. The symbols glowed softly when aligned correctly. The team held its breath as the final panel clicked into place, the doorway sliding open with a smooth motion. Lyra's eyes widened. "You solved it? Without even touching it forcefully?" Ethan shrugged modestly. "Observation, patience, and logic. That's all it took." Inside, the structure was more fascinating than anyone could have imagined. Alien machines hummed, emitting light pulses and projecting holographic maps of the planet. Strange energy conduits ran along the walls, pulsing with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. The team moved cautiously, analyzing everything. Then the danger appeared. One of the conduits sparked unexpectedly, triggering a defensive mechanism. Energy beams shot across the chamber, forming a complex grid. Any misstep could result in injury or worse. The team froze, unsure how to navigate the shifting hazards. Lyra's instincts pushed her forward. She leaped between beams, her agility allowing her to avoid contact, but even she began to struggle with the speed and unpredictability of the grid. Ethan, however, noticed a pattern. The beams pulsed in a repeated sequence, and gaps formed in specific intervals. "Follow me," he called. "Step here. Then here. Wait. Now move." His voice was calm, almost soothing, guiding the team through the deadly maze. Step by step, they moved without touching the energy beams. Every eye followed Ethan's instructions, trusting his judgment even though many had doubted his physical abilities. When they reached the other side, the team exhaled in relief. Lyra turned to him, her expression a mixture of awe and respect. "I underestimated you," she admitted quietly. "Your mind. It's as powerful as any warrior's body." Ethan smiled politely. "Strength comes in many forms. Today, it just happened to be my kind of strength." The incident changed something in Lyra. She had always measured ability by physical skill, by speed and reflexes. But here was a human whose approach was entirely different, yet equally effective. She realized that true strength was not always visible. It could be quiet, patient, and clever. And it could save lives just as surely as raw power. As the team explored further, Ethan continued to prove his value. He deciphered more puzzles, navigated hidden traps, and even predicted minor shifts in the alien structure that could have endangered the team. Lyra began to shadow him, not to lead, but to observe, learning to combine his methods with her own agility and reflexes. By the end of the day, the team had mapped a significant portion of the underground structure and collected vital data about the planet's energy systems. They returned to their shuttle exhausted but triumphant. Lyra walked beside Ethan, her respect for him evident in her posture and quiet demeanor. "You've changed the way I think about strength." "What?" she said softly. "It's not just muscles or speed. The mind, strategy, observation. These are just as important." Ethan nodded, not boasting, only acknowledging the truth of her words. "We all have different strengths," he replied. "The key is knowing how to use them." Lyra smiled faintly. "I think I'm beginning to understand, and I'm glad you were here to show me." As the shuttle lifted off from Zolaris, the sun dipping below jagged mountains, Lyra and Ethan looked out at the horizon. The planet was full of mystery, danger, and discovery, but together they had faced its challenges and survived. The team had learned more than they could have imagined, but perhaps the most important lesson came from observing Ethan. True strength often lay hidden, revealed only when tested by circumstance and guided by intelligence. And in that moment, Lyra realized that she had found not just an ally, but a partner who could match her in courage and determination, even if his methods were entirely different from hers. For the first time, she felt that strength could be more than physical. It could be a combination of mind, heart, and will. The revelation would shape the rest of their journey. Challenges awaited them beyond the planet, in a galaxy where danger and mystery were constant companions. But Lyra no longer doubted the value of the human by her side. His intelligence, foresight, calm determination had proven that assumptions about weakness could be shattered, that one quiet, clever move could change everything. The following day on Zolaris began with a pale sunrise spilling over jagged cliffs and rocky plains. The team had set up a temporary base near the edge of a canyon where energy readings were strongest. Scientists were busy analyzing samples while explorers scouted the area for safe paths. Deeper into the planet's surface, Ethan and Lyra stood together near the edge of the canyon. Examining a strange formation of crystalline rocks, Lyra adjusted her gear, her violet eyes scanning for any immediate danger. "The readings suggest these crystals are part of a larger energy network," she explained. "If we can understand it, it might give insight into the planet's systems and potentially reveal hidden structures beneath." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "We should approach carefully. Some of these formations might be unstable or connected to energy conduits like yesterday. Observing patterns could help us avoid any surprises." Lyra studied him for a moment, impressed. "I'm starting to see why humans can be more capable than we assume," she said. "Your careful approach. It's valuable." Our partnership had already begun to evolve. Lyra's agility and combat skills complemented Ethan's intelligence and foresight. While she led the team over rough terrain, he calculated safe routes, predicted environmental hazards, and found clever ways to navigate the dangerous landscape as they moved deeper into the canyon. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath them. Dust and small rocks cascaded down from the cliffs, forcing the team to take cover. Ethan immediately identified a pattern in the tremors. "It's rhythmic," he shouted over the noise. "The rocks fall in intervals. Move with me, step here, then here, wait now." Lyra followed his lead, leaping with precision, while also keeping her eyes on the surrounding environment. The team moved as a single unit, guided by Ethan's directions and Lyra's agility. By the time the tremors subsided, everyone had reached a stable area safely. The experience only strengthened Lyra's respect for him. "I admit it," she said, brushing dust off her uniform. "I thought humans were fragile, but you have a kind of strength that can't be measured by speed or muscle alone." Ethan smiled quietly. "Strength isn't just physical. It's awareness, patience, and the ability to act wisely when it matters most." Further exploration led the team to a narrow passage partially blocked by giant crystal shards. Some of the crystals emitted faint energy pulses, while others seemed solid but delicate. Lyra instinctively tried to push through, but the shards were sharp. One wrong move could have damaged both her gear and the surrounding structures. Ethan studied the arrangement.
carefully.
"We need a route that preserves both our safety and the integrity of the crystals," he said. Using small handheld tools, he adjusted the smaller shards carefully, creating a pathway. Lyra followed his lead, moving gracefully while respecting the fragile environment. The team entered a large cavern beyond the crystal passage. Holographic energy flows danced along the walls, and massive alien machinery loomed in the shadows. Ethan's eyes widened with curiosity. "This system is complex," he said. "It's as if the planet itself is alive, responding to energy patterns." Lyra nodded. "We need to map this carefully. It could be dangerous if we trigger anything by mistake." As they moved forward, they encountered a series of floating platforms forming a path across a deep chasm. The platforms shifted in response to weight and energy levels. Lyra prepared to leap across, relying on her agility, but Ethan studied the sequence of movement. "Wait," he said. "The platforms respond in a predictable pattern. Watch the energy pulses, they tell us when it's safe to step." Using his instructions, the team crossed the chasm without incident. Lyra was amazed. "Your observation skills are incredible," she said. "I never thought of energy patterns as guidance." Ethan shrugged modestly. "Sometimes the solution is right in front of us. We just need to notice it." Their next challenge emerged in the form of a large, rotating barrier blocking access to a central chamber. Mechanical sensors projected beams of light in multiple directions, forming a web that would have made even Lyra pause. She analyzed the pattern, ready to rely on her reflexes. Ethan, however, examined the movement carefully. "The beams follow a sequence," he said. "If we move in sync, we can pass without triggering the sensors. I'll guide you, step by step." Ethan called out instructions. "Left, now right. Wait, jump." Lyra followed him precisely, her agility ensuring she cleared the beams, while the rest of the team moved under his guidance. When they reached the other side, the beams shifted harmlessly, and the barrier rotated back into its resting position. Lyra turned to Ethan, her respect evident. "Without your guidance, we would have failed. I see now that strength is not just muscle, or speed it's understanding and foresight." Ethan nodded. "And your strength made it possible for us to act quickly when needed. Alone, neither of us could have succeeded. Together, we're more effective." The partnership deepened further when the team discovered a hidden chamber filled with alien consoles. The consoles displayed symbols, energy graphs, and maps of the planet's surface. Lyra attempted to manipulate them physically, pressing buttons and levers. But the system did not respond. Ethan stepped forward, studying the symbols and sequences. "It's a system of logic," he explained. "Strength won't help. We need to understand the order, the cause, and effect." He manipulated the panels carefully, aligning sequences and monitoring energy feedback. Gradually, the system came alive, revealing a detailed map of the underground structures and energy flows throughout the planet. Lyra watched in admiration. "You understood it without brute force." "That's impressive," Ethan smiled. "Sometimes the mind is the key, and sometimes patience matters more than speed." The map revealed a path to a central energy core deep within the planet. The readings suggested that this core could be a source of immense energy valuable for research and possibly for the station itself. However, reaching it would require navigating dangerous terrain and overcoming its environmental hazards. The team prepared for the final leg of their journey. Lyra led the way through narrow tunnels, over unstable rock bridges, and around volatile energy conduits. Ethan's careful observations guided the team safely, predicting weak spots, timing movements with precision, and finding clever ways to bypass potential dangers. Finally, they reached a massive chamber housing the energy core. It was a glowing orb suspended above a pedestal, radiating a soft light that filled the cavern. Pipes and conduits connected to it, pulsing with energy that seemed to breathe. Lyra approached the core cautiously, her senses alert. "This is incredible," she whispered. "The energy here, it's unlike anything I've felt before." Ethan examined the core from a distance. "It's stable for now, but we need to be careful." Even a small disturbance could cause a reaction that affects the whole chamber. Working together, Lyra and Ethan carefully studied the connections, mapping out energy flows and potential hazards. Ethan suggested adjustments to the conduits to stabilize the energy patterns, while Lyra used her agility to reach difficult points and secure components. By combining their unique strengths, they managed to stabilize the core and record important data. The chamber hummed in quiet approval, as if acknowledging their teamwork. The rest of the team watched in awe, realizing that the combination of human ingenuity and Zorani skill had made the impossible possible. As they prepared to leave, Lyra turned to Ethan. "I never thought I would say this, but I'm glad you were here. Alone, I could have tried, but we wouldn't have succeeded. Together, we can accomplish things neither of us could do alone." Ethan smiled politely, feeling a warmth of pride and friendship. "That's the key," he said. "We all have different strengths, and when we combine them, we can overcome challenges that seem impossible." The journey back to the shuttle was quieter, reflective. Lyra walked beside Ethan, no longer with skepticism, but with respect and curiosity. Their partnership had grown stronger, and the bond between them was forming naturally, built on mutual admiration and trust. As the shuttle lifted off from Zaloris, Lyra looked down at the glowing planet below. "This mission has taught me more than I expected," she said. "Strength is not just what I thought it was. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and clever. Sometimes it comes from the mind as much as the body." Ethan nodded. "And sometimes it comes from working together. Alone, we can achieve a little. Together, we can achieve a lot." For the first time, Lyra realized that assumptions about strength about humans, about others, about herself, could be limiting. With the right combination of skills and trust, even the most unlikely partnerships could succeed. And in that moment, as the shuttle sailed through the planet's upper atmosphere, both Ethan and Lyra understood that their journey had only just begun. Challenges awaited in the galaxy, dangers far beyond Zalaris, but they had discovered a truth that would guide them: intelligence and courage, combined with skill and trust, were more powerful than any single form of strength. The partnership was no longer tentative, it was real, tested by danger and strengthened by experience. Together, they were ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them next. The shuttle glided through space, leaving Zalaris behind as the team prepared to return to Aurora Prime. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet but tense. Lyra sat beside Ethan, her violet eyes reflecting the soft glow of the shuttle's instruments. She had learned much during the mission about the planet, the energy systems, and most importantly, about Ethan. "Ethan," she said finally, breaking the silence, "I underestimated humans. I thought strength was only physical. But your mind, your patience, your ability to see patterns and predict danger, it's remarkable." Ethan gave a small smile, modest as ever. "I just do what I can. I observe, plan, and act carefully. That's how we get through challenges." Lyra shook her head slightly, almost in disbelief. "It's more than that. You've changed the way I think about strength. You've shown me that courage and intelligence are just as important as speed and power." Their conversation was interrupted by a warning signal. The shuttle's control panel blinked red. Sensors had detected an anomaly nearby, an asteroid cluster moving unpredictably, threatening to intercept their path. The pilot swore under his breath, adjusting the shuttle's trajectory. But the readings suggested that their standard maneuvers might not be enough. Ethan leaned over the console, analyzing the situation quickly. "The cluster is dense, but the movement has a pattern," he said. "If we time our course precisely and move in sync with the gaps, we can pass safely." Lyra looked at him, impressed. "And you're sure this will work?" Ethan nodded. "It's worth trying. Follow my instructions, and we'll make it." The shuttle shuddered as it entered the asteroid field. Lyra gripped the edge of her seat while Ethan called out precise directions. "Left thrusters. Now, tilt up. Wait. Lower shields." The shuttle responded perfectly, weaving through the rocks with an elegance that surprised even the veteran crew. Lyra followed every instruction, her agility and quick reflexes, complementing Ethan's guidance. One wrong move could have spelled disaster, but together they navigated the cluster safely. The team erupted in cheers as the last asteroid passed by without incident. When they finally exited the field, Lyra turned to Ethan with a mixture of awe and respect. "You saved all of us," she said quietly. "Not with strength, but with your mind. I've never seen anything like it." Ethan shrugged. "I just applied what I learned from observation and patterns, and I couldn't have done it without you. Your skills allowed us to act quickly when needed." The incident cemented something in Lyra's mind. She had always valued speed and physical prowess. But here was a human whose intelligence, patience, and strategic thinking were just as powerful, if not more so, in certain situations. The shuttle finally docked at Aurora Prime, greeted by a crowd eager to hear about the mission. Scientists and explorers crowded the landing bay, excited about the discoveries on Zolaris. They had mapped the underground structures, stabilized the energy core, and gathered data that could advance their understanding of alien technology for decades. Lyra and Ethan disembarked together, walking side by side. Their partnership had been tested through danger, and it had survived stronger than ever. The other crew members noticed the mutual respect between them, where there had once been skepticism about humans. There was now admiration and curiosity. A young Zerani approached Lyra, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Did you see the humans thinking during the mission? He predicted every hazard and guided us safely. I didn't believe it at first, but he's incredible." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and he taught me something important. Strength is not just what you can do with your body, it's also what you can do with your mind. Courage, patience, and intelligence are just as vital." Ethan smiled politely at the compliment, uncomfortable with too much attention. "I was just doing my part," he said. "We all worked together. That's what made it possible." The mission had changed perceptions across Aurora Prime. Humans were no longer seen as weak or fragile. Instead, they were recognized as clever, adaptable, and capable of facing challenges that seemed impossible. Ethan's actions had become a symbol of the potential inherent in humans, a species often underestimated but full of untapped talent. Later, in the quiet of the station's observation deck, Lyra and Ethan stood side by side looking out at the stars. "I never expected to learn so much from a human," Lyra admitted. "You've changed the way I think about strength and teamwork." Ethan looked at her and smiled. "And you've shown me that strength comes in many forms. With courage, intelligence, and trust, we can face challenges that might seem impossible alone." Lyra's expression softened. "I suppose that's the real lesson of our journey. True strength is not only what we can do individually, it's what we can do together, combining our skills, trust, and determination." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. That's what made Zolaris possible, and that's what will help us in the future, wherever we go." The two of them stood silently for a moment, watching the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and discoveries, waiting for those willing to explore. But now, they knew they could face whatever came together, an unlikely partnership forged through courage, core intelligence, and mutual respect. Aurora Prime celebrated the mission as a success. The energy core of Zolaris was stable, the underground structures mapped, and the team returned safely. Researchers praised the combined efforts of humans and aliens, recognizing the strength and diversity, cooperation, and the blending of unique abilities. Ethan's quiet courage and intelligence had inspired not only Lyra, but the entire station. His actions proved that humans were more than physical limitations. They possessed foresight, ingenuity, and a capacity to adapt that made them invaluable allies. Lyra approached him one last time before the official debrief. "I have to admit," she said with a faint smile, "I thought you were weak. But one move you're thinking, your patience, your skill changed everything." Ethan chuckled softly. "I guess I surprised you." Lyra's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Not just me. Everyone here has learned a new respect for humans. And I think We've only begun to see what we can do together." The two walked through the bustling corridors of the station, side by side. Their partnership was now solid, founded on trust, mutual respect, and an understanding of each other's strengths. Where Lyra brought speed, skill, and agility, Ethan brought intelligence, observation, and careful planning. Together, they were a formidable team, capable of facing dangers far beyond anything they had encountered. As the sun set over Aurora Prime, bathing the station in golden light, Lyra looked at Ethan and said softly, "The galaxy is bigger and more dangerous than we imagined. But I know that with you, we can face anything." Ethan nodded, feeling the same quiet confidence she did. "And I know that with you, we'll always find a way." The story of their mission spread quickly across the station. Humans were no longer underestimated, and the legend of the engineer who had defied expectations became a source of inspiration. It reminded everyone that strength was not only physical, it could be found in courage, intelligence, and the ability to think under pressure. Lyra and Ethan's partnership became a symbol of cooperation, showing that combining different strengths could overcome any obstacle. Their journey had begun with doubt and assumptions, but it ended with trust, respect, and a new understanding of what it meant to be truly strong. And as the stars stretched endlessly beyond the station's walls, both knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy held countless challenges and mysteries, but together they would face them all, showing that even the most unlikely pair could become a legend. For Lyra, the skeptical warrior, and Ethan, the quiet human engineer, one mission had changed everything. And as they prepared for future adventures, they knew that strength was not a single measure. It was a combination of mind, courage, heart, and the will to act when it mattered most.